Hello, everyone, and welcome to Moementum Mondays. On these weekly series, every Monday, we invite one inspiring young man or woman to our show and talk to them about important topics, including investing, financial planning, and financial education. Many of our guests include fellow YouTubers and investors who I've followed on YouTube and enjoyed their contents. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Well, aloha, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Moementum Mondays. My name is Mo, and I'm super excited to have Mark, the one and only Mr. Dividend Investors. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, aloha, everybody. Thank you for having me, Mo. I really appreciate this. This is very humbling, and I'm honored to be part of this show.
It is my pleasure. I've been following Mark's Mr. Dividend Investors, as we know him on YouTube for a while, and absolutely love your content, how dedicated you are, and to your channel and to your subscribers, and sharing various insightful videos and contents for the viewers. So why don't we get started by having you kind of introduce yourself to our audience. I don't think, Mark, you've previously been on the video itself. A lot of times the videos that I watch from you, you're always behind the scenes. So it's always nice to put a face to the name and get to know you a little bit better. So tell us more about yourself, Mark.
All right. Hey, aloha, guys. So my name is Mark, Mr. Dividend Investor. So basically, I'm, in my daytime job, I work in the educational field, work with special needs kids. I am 40-something years old. I don't want to tell you exactly. Living in the state of Hawaii, which is great, beautiful place to live in. Definitely one of my favorite places to go and just stay. So if you guys ever come here, just check me out. Definitely beautiful island, beautiful people. So I started in the 2020s. So I wanted to create a channel where I would to influence new investors, because when I talk to people about the stock market and investing, they always have this negative attitude about it. Oh, you'll lose your money, or it is gambling. So I wanted to inspire those that are even thinking about investing to show them that, hey, a regular guy like myself can make some money in there. But you got to do it smart, and you got to do it with a lot of research, understanding the company. So one of the things that I always tell people is to, do your own research, understand what you are investing in. Don't follow whatever the most popular stocks in there, and invest in the companies that you understand and you like. So like one of the things I talk to people is that if you are going to start investing, invest in the companies that you are personally a consumer in. Like I like Starbucks, so I invest in Starbucks. So I like Johnson and Johnson. I have kids, so I use a lot of the Johnson and Johnson products. So those are just some of the examples. And I also wanted to kind of tell them that it's okay to invest, and it's great to invest. It is a form of income that you can do if you plan it out. So a lot of the things I wanted to show was I wanted to share this with people because you have a lot of people working hard, 2-3 jobs, especially in the state of Hawaii, where it is expensive. So a lot of great hardworking people work 2-3 jobs just to make ends meet. And I wanted to show them that, hey, if you just invest here and there, you can start building a portfolio that you can eventually live off it if you just consistently plan it and consistently invest on it. And so that's how it came about. I'm happy where it's at. I feel humbled that I have all these subscribers. I never thought in a million years that 2,000 people will subscribe to my channel. I didn't have any expectations of how many I wanted to have and how many. So there is this still a pressure to do the best content, because I don't want to let these people down, because I feel like they put a lot of time and they said, okay, I'm going to subscribe to you. So when I do videos, I make sure the one thing I always do is is this video informative? Like, is this something that they are going to take and learn from it, and use it? So when I post these videos, that's the always thing that comes in my mind is, I'm not worried about the numbers. I'm not worried about whether it's going to get viewed. I'm worried about, okay, once I put it out, will people learn from it? And will people use that information to improve their investing and understand the market? YouTube is a great search engine. There's a lot of information you can use using YouTube. So I look at that as something that if people want to learn about the companies, then they can search for it. So when I do these videos, I give them a starting point of where they need to look at, and then they can decide on their own whether this is a stock that they want to purchase or whether they want to just do it on a swing trade. So that's how it came about.
As a viewer, I get that genuineness that you bring to your viewers, and it's not, as you touched on that, it's not about necessarily having the most views, but for those viewers who are actually landing on your video, whether you're able to bring them value, whether you're able to connect with them. And I think that's a testament to your ability to do that your channel has actually grown. As you mentioned, it's already surpassing the 2,000 mark. And I think by having that right attitude, over time, the growth would come with it. I think, for the YouTubers, the growth of the channel is also, of course, a motivation, because you see that, you're able to make a larger influence, like, as with YouTube, you have a chance to connect with people from all around the world. So that's really one of the beauties of it. And I do definitely see that in your contents. Now, you touched on having created your channel in 2020. Now, did you start investing in the same year? That was the famous year where the stock crashed, or did you start earlier on?
No, actually, my first taste of investing started way back in 2003.
Oh, wow.
That's when I was introduced to IRAs and 401ks. So while I was sitting there, they asked me, like, okay, so which stock do you want to invest on? And my first one was the VTI. So that was, and then, when I did that, I was like a crash test dummy. Didn't know anything about stock market. Didn't know anything about it. A couple of years after, I started to really understand it. So I read some books. I understand. I went YouTube, started searching for companies. Understanding what dividends are and all that jazz. And then I started to really just get into and mesh and just understand the whole thing. What is the stock market about? What are all these components? What is a chart and all that stuff? So those are the things that I was kind of learning. And then as I learn about how things are, the red days, the bull, what is a bull market? What is and all that jazz. So that's how I started really investing. So when I started real investing, it was just like, boom, it's just like skyrocket, and now, so having that experience when we had that market crash last year was, in my opinion, was a very, for me, it was a great learning experience, because it taught me the value of sticking to the plan, because a lot of people, if they don't understand the stock market and they see it crashing, automatically they want to just pull out. I want to take all my money and just run, but that's how the market is. It goes up. It doesn't always go up. It goes down every now and then. So what I learned for that is just, when you do your research and you do your due diligence, is what we always say in all our videos, then when those things happen, then you won't feel like, oh, I need to get out, because you did your research, and then you did your research, you understand the company, so you're not going to bail out and sell, because you believe in that company. So that's why for me, when that happened, like everybody else, you had that emotional, like, oh my God, you're looking at the numbers and you're like, oh my God, right? But then you understand that that's what they call just paper loss. You only lose it until you sell it. Then it becomes like a loss. So, I'm really, I've learned a lot from that. That was one of the really big key moments of my investing journey. But I stuck to it, and I made ton of cash as well with it. So part of the profits that I made this year was because I stuck to it. I bought more shares in certain companies, and I used that to buy more shares.
Buying those shares in companies that you believe in at a bargain, because if the fundamentals of the companies have not changed, and if their stock price is down because of the economy, because of various external factors that is beyond the control of the company, if anything, that's probably, to your point, is probably a massive opportunity. But
Yes.
you have to have that right mindset and also
Yes.
be prepared. And
Yes.
it's easier said than done, because I know when it happens, and maybe especially if that's the first time that it's happening to you, you might really freak out. It's like, oh no. But you pointed out a very good point here, is that all those gains or losses are unrealized, right? They're on paper, so you're not gonna lose necessarily unless you decide to sell, nor are you gonna perhaps gain anything unless you choose to sell. So it's something to be mindful of, and have that in the back of your mind as you're planning around what is the vision for your let's say investments, stock portfolio, and where you want to be headed to.
Yeah. So when I look at red days, and I actually talked to a couple of my coworkers a couple of weeks ago, because they started wanting to invest, and they talked about the red days. So I kind of put red days as like sales, because and I put an example. It's like you go to a department store, and you see a red tag sale. You look at the shirt, and you say, oh, hey, this shirt costs $50, and you say, okay, I'm gonna hold back and wait. Couple of weeks later, you go to the same store, you look at the same shirt. Now it's like $12, $12. So now you buy it, and then you think you got a good deal, right? Which you did. You got a good deal. If you would have bought it a couple of weeks ago, it would have been $50. Now it's $12. So I try to explain to them, think of that way in terms of the stock market. It's the same shirt, it's just a different tag, So I try to talk to people about, don't get stuck to the price, because that's just one of the many aspects of the stock market. That's just the price. You got to look at it as, when you buy a stock, you basically are buying a company, a share of the company. So you have to look at, like what you said, the fundamentals of it. So the CEO, those are the things. What direction are they going to? So when you look at a stock, I always tell them, you got to look at what direction they're going. How is the trend of the world going? How are their fundamentals? Meaning they're, looking at their debt, their, PE ratios and all that jazz. But I always look at it as, for me, when I buy a stock, I always say, okay, how is this stock helping everybody? Is it something that everybody uses? So like an example, Apple, everybody uses it, so it is something that you want to purchase it, because people are always going to buy Apple products. They're always going to buy all these Apple Apple phones and everything. So when I talk to people about investing, it's not just about numbers. It's about, what is this product about and how it helps people. If it helps people and you think it's going to help the masses, then it would be a profitable, in my opinion, a stock.
I think that's where a lot of the personal investors, such as ourselves, like have a lot of edge, because we can really get interested about the companies that either we've used directly ourselves, or we see that our close friends, families are actually using it, and maybe use that as a starting point to your point, do some research, get to know a little bit more about the company, who's the clientele for them, where is the company headed, are they continuing is there going to be a continued demand for the products and services? And from there on, maybe educate yourself a little bit from some of those fundamentals from a finance perspective, being able to perhaps read some of the numbers in their balance sheet, revenue, how's the revenue changing over time, how about their net income. But I think there's not a shortage of contents here on YouTube, nor free contents in terms of books, videos that you could really educate yourself on that.
Yeah, no, there is a lot, and YouTube is a great search engine. I think people tend to forget that because there's a lot of entertainment in there. But if you just need to search anything, you can use YouTube as a way to use it. I use it sometimes when I need to fix things. When I don't know how to fix a door, I'll be like, okay, I'll type it in. How do you fix how do you fix a doorknob and all that jazz? So it is a great tool. I feel very humbled that we are part of that tool. So I think we all, like for me, we all have a responsibility to provide the best content that we can possibly provide, so that people, can use that information that we all provide to better their lives. So, and that's how I see our responsibility, as YouTube, content creators in the financial sector. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about your stock investment portfolio and what is your kind of style. Are you more of a kind of a passive investors going with exchange traded funds and things like that, or are you more active investors? And also tell me a little bit more about your style, whether it's more of a value investors or perhaps more of a growth and high growth kind of type of investing.
I do I have a couple of portfolios. My main portfolio is basically more of a dividend uh, portfolio. And my goal for for one of my portfolios is to live off that dividend.
Mm-hmm.
So majority of the stocks in that portfolio is basically dividends. Johnson and Johnson, Abbey, those kinds of companies. The other one, I do a little bit of a value. So I find some of the value stocks, like the other stuff that you see on my channel, because I want to learn about all those things too. I want to try to see which ones are, I want to just play with it and see how things are. Whether my research is great to see. I do put a lot of work into researching. A lot. Basically, having two kids and having kids and having a full-time job. So, it is a lot of research. Any little things any few hours I have, I'm sitting and just researching, understanding the companies that I want to invest on, looking at different companies. I do have another company, one with portfolio that is penny stocks. Those are just kind of just the riskier ones. But my main portfolio is just dividends. I have one portfolio that is just basically ETFs. Because I want to compare the stock pickings that I have to the ETF and see how it is. Not necessarily looking at it in terms of like how good I am at stock picking, because I don't think that way. I'm just looking at it and seeing, okay, I want to improve my research. So by comparing the portfolio with just basically ETFs, comparing it with the stock pickings, I'm able to see whether, what else do I need to do to improve how I look at a company, how I look at stocks, because I'm always a student of the stock market. I watched your videos a lot, because I want to see how you look at stocks and how do you interpret your portfolio and how you see your portfolio and what you look for. So I also do. I watch other content creators because I want to learn from them. Because you can never say that you have this one perfect portfolio. I've always liked to as a person who works in the educational field, I'm always a learner. So I take that and apply it to stock market, because there's always somebody that has better insights than I do and has better strategies than I do. So I want to learn from them and pick up some of their skills and their strategies so that I can improve and share it to the rest of the people that are subscribed to my channel. Um,
I
yeah,
love what you just said there, Mark, and the approach that you're taking, being a active learner, continuous learner, and the learning never stops. And I think it applies to all of us, whether we are a content curator or just perhaps a content consumer. Regardless, I think the learning never stops, and it is not about necessarily watching somebody and copying what they do, but rather, thinking and reflecting, to your point, around what is their thought process that goes to their mind, and how do they approach certain stocks or investments avenues. And you constantly learn. There's a ton of YouTubers for me as well that I watch. I definitely watch your contents, and you can learn one thing or another from each video that you watch. And I think that's how you grow, and that's how you kind of adjust over time, course correct, and really see what works best for yourself. And I really like your approach of investing in both, let's say, more passive as well as like some of the active, and over time comparing the two, seeing how you're doing, maybe learning from that experience and reflection. So clearly you take the time to reflect. That's amazing. Now, I have a question about the stocks or sectors that you are most excited about in this year. Do you mind sharing that with us?
yeah. So one of the sectors I'm really bullish about is the MJ sector. I think that is, in my opinion, going to boom in the next couple of years. I've invested a lot in that part. The growth generation is one that I'm really looking at, that I really am bullish about. So that one as well. And then I'm also bullish in the EV sector. I know right now it's down, but in my opinion, this is a great opportunity to pick up some of those EV ones, EV comes like Tesla. Tesla, if you really do your research, Tesla is not just a EV company. It is a solar company as well. So they tap on a lot of the green movement that it's coming. So I think those are the two that I'm really excited in terms of stuff, and I'm really slowly investing a lot of it. So when it starts to just pop, then right there, I'm in there.
Those are some great picks for me. Definitely the clean energy field is one that I'm also keenly interested in, and definitely I think the recent market price drops in that field could offer a good entry point for many investors who perhaps haven't uh, yet got into that field. Or even if, let's say, you've had some shares or stocks that are down heavily, I don't think, back to our earlier conversation, I don't think that should necessarily discourage you, but rather take that as one of those red tags, as you talked about. Like, you're getting the same thing that you were interested in now at the sale. So don't get discouraged, but rather stay true to your course, know what the end goal is and why you invested in them in the first place. And if the fundamentals are still solid and you believe that long term they're still gonna come back strong, I don't think there's anything to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Now, with you, Mark, essentially being with the education field, as you touched on that earlier on, what are some of the books or resources in the finance or investment realm that are among your favorite ones and you would like to share perhaps with our viewers here on Momentum Channel?
Yeah. So one of the ones that I really would recommend is The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. I think if you're going to start investing, that is a book that you probably should be reading. There's other great books, but I think for me, when I read that, um, you know, it reminded me about keeping my emotions in check. So they talked about how keeping your fears under control and having more of a think for yourself rather than listening to the noise with the stock market. So when I read that, it made me because when you look at that book was written like way in the 60s or 70s, I think. But the message in there was basically just, you got to think on your own. You got to think about what you're investing in. You gotta stay true to the course. Keep your emotions in check. Because that is an intelligent investor. You did your research. You're not buying things because it's emotion. We are human beings. Emotion is part of it. Whether we want to try to keep it in check or not. But I think that book reminds me to be disciplined. So when I read that book, um, then I started applying it when that big market crash happened. So it was a way to get prepared in terms of the psychological side of investing, and not necessarily get caught up into the noise. I always say the noise of whether the stock market is saying, oh, there's going to be a big dip, there's going to be this crash, and like how we talked about, you have to stay true to what your plan is, because a lot of these things that you invest on, you have to have a plan. Like, what is your long-term goal and what is your short-term goal? So, if you do your research and you do your homework, then you shouldn't worry about what happens right now, because that's just temporary, and that's how this book allowed me to have this mindset, so that when I started investing, then I understood the psychological part and the emotional part of investing.
Thanks for sharing that with our audience. Do you have any final word of advice or any other experiences or thoughts that you would like to share with our viewers here on Moementum channel?
First off, I want to say that if you guys just do me a favor and smash that like button and hit that subscribe. Mo has a great channel, and if you also have time, come swing by my channel and check it out. But in terms of the advice, if I always say, if you want to start your YouTube channel, I say just do it. Don't worry about whether the light is bad and all that jazz. It's a learning process. So just start. And then the second thing is, in terms of the financial, you got to have a plan. You got to write things down, decide on what is your long-term goal, and then what are your short-term goals. And be consistent and be disciplined in it. If your goal is to make $1 million by a certain amount of years, then plan things out and write down what are some of the small-term goals, so that you can achieve that goal. And help and put it and be disciplined about it, and just continue to do what you need to do to reach that goal. Because the way I see it, the only person that can stop you from reaching that goal is yourself.
Such great advice from Mr. Dividend Investor, the one and only Mark. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us here on this episode of Moementum Mondays. We had a lot of fun. Thanks for this conversation. I feel like after this video, I got to know you a lot better, gain a lot of wisdom from this short video itself. So I definitely encourage our viewers, if you haven't done that already, be sure to check out Mr. Dividend Investor's YouTube channel. You're going to gain a lot of insights from Mark and his approach to investing. Thank you so much, Mark. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Aloha, guys. Thank you so much, Mo. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for watching this episode of Moementum Mondays. I hope it was valuable to you and you learned something from it. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit from the video as well. We've added the contact link to our invited guests to the description of the video, so be sure to check them out. And lastly, if you haven't done that already, please subscribe to Moementum channel. Here on Moementum, we post weekly various videos about the stock market investing, stock analysis, financial planning, and finances. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.